All right, spider check, clear. What is up, everybody? How are you guys doing? Thanks for checking out Bluefoot Homestead. I appreciate any support. That's awesome. Yeah, I want to kind of rehash on something that I've talked about in the past that I find is very concerning. It's very high priority with what I'm thinking about for geopolitics and my prepping, for that matter. But nobody really talks about it. Everybody kind of gets diverted with the shiny, you know? Things happen. We know that the way things work is something's building up, and then something over here pops off, and they're like, ooh, everybody's looking over here while things are getting twisted and the actual things are happening when nobody's looking. We all know that. So I want to talk about Russia and Cuba. Yes, Cuba. Nobody has Cuba on the radar at all, and I think that's very concerning. So to go back a little ways, 10 years ago, Russia started the relationship back with Cuba. Once the Soviet Union fell, they kind of broke apart a little bit. Putin got in office. Putin is a communist. And he started kind of bringing those ties together with Cuba again. So he went over there to make some deals to help them out economically 10 years ago. Now, about a year and a half ago, Putin went over there and did a tour. It was based on economics. They did a tour of all their bunkers and military storage facilities. Now, there's a funny thing about this is I wanted to bring up some B-roll of different articles and stuff like that. I'd maybe like to try doing that. I don't have the software to record computer and whatnot, but maybe I will. But all that information is missing off of the internet. I cannot find it anywhere, and I know for a fact I watched it. And it's pretty much wiped off the internet. So what happened is he went over there, he was walking with the president of Cuba, or the leader, I think he's the president, through the storage facilities of their weapons, doing an inspection, making sure everything's going to be okay for no reason at all. They didn't talk about what exactly was going on, but if you can have a little bit of common sense, you can pretty much figure it out. Russia was planning on stocking military equipment and remilitarizing Cuba. So it's kind of interesting that that's basically missing off of at least YouTube and stuff like that, because obviously I wanted a video. Now, not that long ago is the shiny that there was a nuclear sub from Russia just off of the coast of Florida. That's what got all of the headlines. Well, what people aren't thinking is they had ships dock into Cuba and they were in fact unloading things. They didn't know. I heard one or two people say it was probably weapons, but they had no intel. They had no information on what they were actually unloading. But everybody's like, holy crap, there's a sub off the coast of Florida. That's the big threat. No, they're there for support to make sure that their delivery gets done. They also, I think, had their version of a Corvette over there. I don't remember all the warships they had. It was fairly minimal. It wasn't a war effort. It wasn't a war exercise. It was to make sure a ship got to Cuba. Now, why would they put the protection like that on a shipment going to Cuba if it was food or water or oil? They wouldn't do it. I'm 100% convinced that they just stocked up Cuba with their weapons. Now, nobody put these together. I mean, Putin was wanting to help them out economically. You know, strike a deal, let us use our military there and we'll throw you some money and help the government and the supreme leaders become more rich. Kind of the way things work. So with what happened 10 years ago, with what happened a year and a half ago, those two are completely out of the picture now. Nobody even thinks about that, let alone relating it to what just happened with the nuclear sub that was off of the coast of Florida. Just being that close scared people. Now, what should really be scary is, one, Cuba's a communist country. Two, Cuba does not like us, does not like our politics, does not like our way of society. If they could, they would do their best to mess us up. Now, Cuba should never be out of people's minds. Cuba has been a threat for a very long time, and it is still a threat. Now it has the backing of Russia. Look into it yourself. It's pretty obvious. There's nothing in black and white actually saying this, but you can put one and one together and figure out what's going on. Putin also came out and talked about his concern with the United States and Ukraine, using Ukraine as a proxy for the U.S. to go to war with Russia. Russia said, if you guys can do that, we can do that too. He basically just said it right there. He, just not that long after that, he ended up sending lots of weapons, munitions, and nuclear weapons to Belarus on the border with Europe, to use them as a proxy. But still, at the same time, all this is going on with Cuba. Nobody's talking about Cuba. So, yeah, I'm concerned about that. I wish I actually knew what was going on. I wish anybody actually knew what was going on. Of course, the media is not going to report on anything because, we got to go keep spending money and all that kind of stuff. And, the media is the media. They're never going to tell you actually what's going on. But there's very high threat. I don't know if there's possible nuclear weapons in Cuba, but there's a lot of firepower sitting in Cuba from Russia right now. So when they decide to say, you know what, screw it, we're going to go ahead and attack the problem that is giving us the problem, which is the United States going through Ukraine to attack Russia, it's going to hit a point to where these 50 different red lines that the United States has crossed with Russia, that they're going to say enough is enough. And they're going to do something about it. Now, it might just start with maybe an attack on a base somewhere close by, something like that. They're going to keep it kind of small. But whenever they want to pull the trigger and actually do some damage, the Southeast could be obliterated. I mean, Florida, basically Houston up to Charlotte, is in full range of a lot of damage coming out of Cuba. Yeah, it's just nobody even thinks about this, and it is a very real threat. Another threat is Mexico got rejected out of BRICS. They did not get accepted. They have reapplied. They are putting the pressure on to be a part of ditching the U.S. dollar, ditching the U.S. economy, and joining Russia, China, Brazil, and all these other BRICS countries. Why are they doing that? Just think about it. Of course, it's global economics, but there's a military aspect wrapped into it as well because they're both connected. And BRICS says that there's no military alliance, but come on. Yeah, they're interlaced. So Mexico's a little bit of a threat too. Right now, there's nothing that is going on. I am hearing nothing about it, but as soon as I start hearing about meetings with Russia, China, going to Mexico for any reason at all, I would be afraid. But really, to wrap it up, Cuba. Nobody talks about Cuba. Nobody thinks about Cuba, and it should be a very big concern. Everybody should be talking about this. I know it's all flashy with Israel and stuff and what's going on with Ukraine. But it's the times when things are easily hidden that you need to really look into what the spotlight isn't on, which is what I'm doing. So, I don't know. Let me know what you think. It does scare me a little bit. People say that the U.S. can't get attacked because of the oceans and the proximity of the country. Bullshit. We can definitely be attacked. And unfortunately, most likely, we are going to be attacked. I talk a lot about something coming out of left field. The last video I did was specifically on that. This is a perfect example of how that can happen. We're going to be expecting a grid down. We're going to be expecting some Iranian terrorist to blow up a building or something like that. Meanwhile, cruise missiles are going to come out of Cuba. Just saying. Tell me what you think. All right, I will talk to you guys next time. Thanks for watching this video, and peace.